A very good evening to you, and thank you so much once again for sticking to Y254 TV, the most amazing channel in Kenya and Africa. My name is Sherry Blessing, and once again, this is the Power Talk Show. Now, on this show, if you've been here before, you know that we have conversations that directly impact your lives, and we want to improve some aspects of it. Last week we were talking about something to do with entrepreneurship and all that, how we can learn to be better at managing finances, and now we want to manage expectations. It's the first day of August, and that means this year has gone by so fast, and we're almost to the end of the year. We have resolutions we set, we have goals, ambitions, and everything that we set out to do. Perhaps we haven't achieved that yet. Perhaps some of our expectations haven't been met, and I want us to figure out how we can manage our expectations and be very, very realistic. So the question we're asking today is, do you even think it's important to have expectations? Do you think this is something that adds value to your life? We want to know what is the best way to handle your expectations, because we all talk about them, but how do we manage them? How do we handle disappointments from not accomplishing some of the things that we expected? That's what we want to find out from you today, and you can go on our platforms at Y254 on all socials. Let us know your thoughts. Share some experience, ask a question, and we will sample that as we progress with the show. And joining me live on set today is the amazing Vanessa Akiwumi. I hope I have that right.
Almost.
Akiwumi.
Very close. You did
So close.
better than a lot of other people.
Yeah. I'm kind of disappointed. I was hoping to ace that. Next time. Yeah. And Vanessa, you're a psychologist and a life coach as well.
Yes.
And it's so amazing to have you here on this platform. How are you feeling?
First of all, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate being on here and having this discussion with you. So I'm honored to be here, so thank you.
You're welcome.
Feeling really good. I think excited to have this discussion, and I think it's something important to talk about, and what a better platform to discuss it with youth as well. So
that's true.
It's something that we can educate people on as they grow, instead of like trying to mitigate when you're a lot older. So what you guys are doing is amazing.
Thank you. I love that, because that's very well said. And in the past few months, we've been seeing so many changes happening in not just Kenya alone, like globally. So many things have been shifting, and we may have some expectations of how we want the world to be, or how we expect things to work.
Right.
And the reality is not always the same. So we want to figure out, just in our personal lives, in our relationships, in our work life, in just the social lives and the political scene that's going on, how can we manage our expectations in a way that they do not disappoint us, and even when we get to disappointment, we know how to handle those emotions. So maybe we can start by defining expectations, because we really talk about it, but what are expectations? What would you describe as expectations?
I think an expectation is something that we feel. I think it's also a feeling inside that you assume or you would like a certain outcome from something. So it's usually when someone, or when you perform an action and you expect something, or you are assuming you're going to get something in return.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of emotion attached to it. So that's why I won't define it as an emotion, but I think there's a lot of weight on it in terms of emotion.
And I really like what you're saying, because it's not that we know this is what's going to happen, it's because we assume it's going to happen because of our own internal feelings and even just the conditioning that we have. We just expect, what if I save 1,000, I should have maybe 1,500 tomorrow, without really knowing that that's the outcome that's going to happen. And in so many ways, we've felt that we have been disappointed. Some of the expectations we had, let me just generalize it and focus on the Kenyan youth, because recently we've had people voicing their opinions, speaking up and sharing what they feel like is the way they expect certain things to happen. But then the reality is, it's not going 100% the way most people expected. And we're even learning based on the Constitution and some of the guidelines and things that, are deeper than we thought. and it's not it's not as simple as we have it in our minds, you know. So how can we manage these expectations and be realistic in a way that we really understand this system works in a certain way, and the only way for me to get what I want is to figure out that system, work with the system, and eventually find a way to make it work for me? How do you think we can do that?
So I think the main thing is understanding that emotion behind it and what an expectation is. So like we just discussed, there's emotion attached to it, and then behind that emotion there's also people, right? So when we're talking about things that, you know, people are standing up for, especially right now in Kenya, we expect a certain outcome, but we can't forget that there's emotion behind that outcome, where there's so many other people. And something I always mention is that the only person you're actually in control of is yourself, right? We cannot manage another person's expectations or their reaction to something. True. So I think a really important aspect is going back to sort of basics and your values and what you believe in as an individual, and then you tend to surround yourself with people with the same values. So it goes to very intrinsically, you know, intrinsic characteristics, I think, is the important thing to note. So when we talk about generalized, you know, like for example with the Constitution, things like that, again, so much emotion behind all of that, right? And so many people making decisions behind that we didn't necessarily have control over, but we expect something. So it's a tricky situation, and I think the most important thing is to learn more about yourself. And understand why we're thinking a specific way, why we have those certain expectations. And funnily enough, I always say, you know, it's better to not have expectations and just lead with your belief in yourself, in your faith, whatever it may be, that I know what I'm doing is for a good reason, for a good cause. It's beyond myself. It's not just that I believe in this, and it's going to benefit me, and that's how I'm going to lead this movement or this project or whatever it may be. So I think it's really important to go deeper into yourself, and that's obviously where the psychology comes into it, right? And the life coaching of learn more about yourself, learn more about your expectations in terms of your values, your emotions, how you're managing those things, and take a holistic approach to it. I hope that sort of answers the question.
I think that's clear in so many ways, because based on the conversations we've been having, so many conversations are centered on knowing yourself. When we talk about financial management, it's all about knowing yourself, knowing your goals, knowing exactly what you expect at the end of it. And even when it comes to mental health, it's about knowing yourself, understand who you are, what your belief system is, why you have that belief system to begin with, and then you can find a way to get to maybe dealing with some of these things. And another thing I've picked from what you're saying is there are variables. It's not as easy as I have my own expectations, because Cheryl can have her expectations, and my director Timo has different expectations. The producer has different expectations, and it's all our emotions, all our personalities, all our minds coming together. So we have to find a way to understand, especially when it's external circumstances, when it's not internal, because when it's internal, it's you dealing with yourself. When it's about personal expectations, what you want out of life, what you expect at the end of maybe your work day, that's internal. But when you're being told about the bigger picture, when you're fighting for something bigger, you have to look at all the other variables that come into play. So like right now when we're talking about the Kenyan scene, it's not just about the Kenyan youth. We have the youth, we have the kids, we have the elders, we have the people in power, and all those other plays, the power plays that are coming into play with everything, the biggest in the variables that make the difference.
Exactly.
But now you've talked about not having expectation being the best way to handle things. But what if I already have expectations? 2 months back, I had expectations. I figured, do you see that scene in Sarafina where you're like, oh my God, at the end of it, it's just like freedom is coming or something. And then you realize it's much bigger than what we think. So how can we then, when we're in that place where we already have the expectations, we've been trying to figure out why this is happening, how can we manage it in that moment?
I think in that moment, again, divert yourself to the bigger picture, like you just said. So in that moment, you want a specific outcome, correct? You have an expectation that I've come and I've you know, given my all to this, and so many people have followed, and there's so much good energy, and I hope I'm being heard, you know, type of thing, but then your expectation isn't met. But there's still a bigger picture beyond that, right? It wasn't that specific goal needed to be ticked off in order for it to have made a difference. Right? So again, it's looking a lot bigger. And I always say that people, you know, you come into this earth, and I think your purpose is always to serve something bigger than you. And I think that's what Kenyans are doing today, is that they're serving not just themselves, not just their parents, not just their, you know, the generations behind them, but, you know, generations going forward, right?
Yeah.
So it's bigger. So I think sometimes it's just a matter of readjusting and realigning what your expectations are. And I think that comes, you know, just life in general, where you're like, okay, I saved 1,000 shillings today. Okay, what is the 1,000 going to get me? I expect it's going to get me X, Y, Z. You go to the grocery store and you're like, oh, okay, right? So next time you save that 1,000 shillings, you're going to know, okay, let me go into the grocery store and just have, you know, not so much of an expectation that I will exit with X. But I may exit with more, I may exit with less, but let me just go in with the intention of buying this particular set of items. Could I get more? Potentially. Could I get less? Potentially. Right? So it's a learning curve, I think, every single time you have an expectation. I think the reason why I always go back to not having an expectation is because you end up being disappointed.
Yeah.
You know?
I like that, because then it trickles down to what you have in the present moment. Because when you look at, when you describe the recent events, as much as the expectations may not have entirely been met, there's a difference that has been made, and it's historical.
Exactly.
You know?
It
so it's
was.
just about
It
looking at
is.
the bigger picture. And even when we get to the finances, because I want us to single down on particularly individual expectations. I want us to look at, I set a goal in January, and I said by the end of July I should have done this, this and that. And perhaps I haven't gotten there, but how can we then step back and take stock of everything else? Because the year has gone by so fast.
It really has.
You know,
it really has.
It's almost done.
Yeah.
And the people who, so many of us, we probably set out goals. We said, in the first 3 months I'll do this, in the next quarter I'll do the next thing.
Yeah.
But then you haven't entirely ticked off everything from your list.
Right.
And it may discourage you from keeping on, because we still have a few months left.
Yeah.
So it may discourage most people from keeping on and still doing their best and still putting themselves out there. But then how can we ensure that even though we haven't entirely met everything, we still have time? We can still get there. How do we readjust our vision? And I'm being joined by another amazing guest. Unfortunately, because of Nairobi traffic, I may fika a bit late, but Ian Ziva is not even a guest. He's been here before. And he's an amazing guy. Karibu sana, Ian.
Thanks so much. Alumnus.
Vanessa, let me tell you one thing about us. We're a family. So once
That's
you're
amazing.
here, it's over for you. Like, you're part of the Power Talk family.
Oh, no, that's amazing.
That's
I really had a
amazing.
lot of fun even behind the scenes
Yeah.
a little bit, because I was scared of traffic, so I left like an hour early. And that person, that's,
Yeah.
Anyway.
And it's so amazing, because thank you for joining us, Ian. He's a media personality. And perhaps you can, I don't know if you've had the question I was asking her. I was wondering, you probably set out goals at the beginning of the year, and now months zimepita. Perhaps you set out things to be done before the end of the first half of the year, and now tuko kwa second half. Na bado huja manage. So how do you keep on going? How do you keep on saying that we still have a few months left to the end of the year, and I can still make these things work?
At the end of the day, it's all about consistency. Like, are you consistent in what you want? If there are some goals that maybe required a certain type of time frame and others that did not, if those that you actually had put in such a bracket, if you did not attain them, how can you, like, you know, try to maneuver them? You might say, okay, I didn't do this in the first 6 months, but maybe if I said in the next 8 months it will have been attainable, then it will have. So maybe just giving yourself a gross period of time, not beating yourself up about it, because life is unexpected. The situations that we have and the situations that we go through are sometimes cannot actually be, you know, intertwined with what we are actually expecting of life. So don't beat yourself up. Just give yourself another 3 months or so. If maybe it was a 6-month goal, if maybe it was an 8-month goal, you can say, you know what, by the end of the year, at least I can make it up. But by 2025, I'll be like, yeah, I've achieved this. Yeah.
And it goes back to the variables again, because the variables play even when it comes to our bigger picture, like our personal lives. Because the things that have been happening, because you know, imwaka imekuwa refu. We started with femicide, then there was a period of road accidents and everything, then there was the flooding, and then everything with the revolution or whatever's been happening. So there's so many variables that can even affect a business person, a student, so many other individuals who are affected by the bigger picture and everything that's going on globally. And it's not just entirely what you want, it's not just your plans. So you have to take stock of that. But how do you when you're planning, and when I'm setting out a goal, let's say right now I'm taking stock of the first few months. I'm saying now we're in the 8th month and I want to do this for the next four months. Sorry. So how do I factor in the variables in my planning? How can I say I want to achieve this, but just in case this doesn't happen, I'm giving myself the grace? Do you have a formula for that, Vanessa?
Yeah, so basically what I do with a lot of my clients is to set tangible and achievable goals. I'm sure you've heard of SWOT, you know, but I do it even more simply where, for example, let's take going to the gym or working out, something everybody starts at the beginning of the year. I'm going to work out, I'm going to, you know, be at the gym every single day, you know. Is that achievable? No. Being at the gym every day is just in no way achievable because traffic, work, you know, something happens. And what tends to happen then is you miss one day, let's say this week. Then next week you feel, oh, I missed a day last week and I really don't feel like going today. I've already missed one day again this week, but I really don't feel like going today. It's okay, let me miss it. So now you've missed 2 weeks, like in a row, right? Then the next week it happens and then you find, okay, I'm going to the gym once a week, right? So you've set yourself up for failure from the beginning of setting that goal, where the approach that I take is, what is an achievable number? And for some reason, I always tend to start with 3. And so 3 times a week, go to the gym. There's 7 days in a week, 3 days is achievable. If you do more, great, right? But the goal is, no matter what happens during that week, get to the gym 3 times. If it means Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or you plan it how you want, but get there those 3 days. If you end up going 7, good on you. That's a bonus. But the goal is 3. So it's setting something that's achievable for you. And remembering that life is not linear, right? Or it goes like this. It's a wave, right? There's always things that happen. You might get sick, you know, whether it's like a flu or something, you know, you have to account for that. So if you're sick for, you know, 3 days, you still have, you know, another 3-4 days to be able to make the gym. So that's how you can work around it. I use gym or physical exercise as like a very simple example, but you know, even with savings, things like that, you have to structure it in a way that you're being honest and realistic with yourself, right? And I think that goes back to my main thing that I was talking about earlier of digging deep within yourself, knowing yourself, asking yourself hard questions. Why do I have certain values? Why are certain things important to me? Whether it's, you know, going to get your nails done or, you know, going to get your hair done. Why is that important to me? And does that need to be a part of my budget? Because if it makes me feel some type of way that influences my character and the way I perform at work and how I am socially, you know, is it worth it? 100%. But then that means that has to be factored into that budget. So it's really doing deep work and knowing yourself and understanding why. We don't question ourselves enough with that. And I think that's, the more we ask ourselves that question, why, the more we lead with intention and the more purposeful we are.
I really love that, because you have to be very realistic and reflect on what you want, why you want it, and who you are in that present moment. And again, I think that's echoing most of the conversations we've been having, because it starts with knowing yourself, understanding yourself, and being very honest with yourself. So setting realistic expectations is the very first step. Now, let me take it to relationships. Because when we get to relationships, I know, that's where so many of us have these expectations. Because it's usually different for the gents and the ladies. Because us ladies, sometimes we'll meet someone, we picture our whole life. Like, I picture myself in a white dress, our babies, the dog that we have, the home that we live in. And for guys, it's just simple. It's like, I probably have this really amazing woman who is by my side, and you expect a woman who's going to be, you know, like a solid rock. She's going to be your peace. She's going to be your advisor. When you have issues, that's the woman you go to. And the reality is, most times that's not the case. Most times you don't meet a woman who's all that, and they add more pressure on you. Ian, when you're getting into relationships, or when you're trying to get into relationships, how do you try and first of all manage those expectations within yourselves, and how do you communicate them to your partner? Do you think it's important to communicate with someone you're dating that this is what I expect, and have that conversation with them?
To some degree, yes. To some degree, no. In the aspect of no, you wouldn't want to place your expectations on someone, and you'll feel like you are actually putting a weight on someone's shoulders, because they feel like they have to conform to your every whim. That is, if they actually love you enough. And yes, in a way that you'll actually have clarity, both of you. Like, there'll be no instance that I'll feel like, she's not doing this, she doesn't respect me. I think that she should have known that I don't like it being done this way, or want it being done that way. So I feel like, in a way, to a certain degree, it's like a 50-50 type of situation. Yeah.
Because placing your expectation on someone is like putting a weight on them.
Yeah.
And then they feel pressure. Because I have a friend who was talking to me today. She met a guy. And you know, she's romanticized the whole thing. She was waiting for this perfect guy. She just met him. And right now she's like, why is he not calling me? Why is he not texting? I'm a bride. I can see our wedding day. And you know, it happens for so many people, ladies in particular. So how can we manage our expectations such that we see the person for who they are? Because, you know, it can blind you. You can expect certain things, and then they show you certain things, and you think, yeah, no, this is the man of my dreams. How can we manage that when we're getting into a dating situation? We're trying to get to know someone such that we don't be blind to every other thing that is the reality except for what we think or what we want.
I think going off what you said too, is that when you have those expectations, for example, let's take a very simple one, that I expect someone to be home at this time every day, but they like to, I don't know, play a sport after work, let's say. You're asking that person to not be themselves, right? Essentially. Yeah. You're saying, okay, well, I want you home at this certain time for no valid reason, just that I need to see you at home at this time. So, sorry. And it's like, but that's important to them. Maybe that's their form of, you know, meditation, detaching, whatever it is, right? So it's really important to make sure that you're being honest with yourself too, is why do I want them home at that time? Is it because I'm scared that, you know, I don't know, Nairobi nightlife, like, what am I scared of, you know, or why do I want that? Is it I'm more of a homebody and, you know, I want the person to be at home with me, like we're meditating together or doing yoga, or like, what is it? Because then that person's not for you, and you're changing that person to someone who they're not, and it's not going to end well, essentially. So now, you know, echoing what you were saying about your friend, I think there's a difference between romanticizing it and, you know, wanting it that specific way. I think she's just super excited. Yeah. So I think, you know, there's that like honeymoon stage, and then, you know, then it gets a little bit more real. Yeah. But I think enjoying it for that moment is okay, you know, asking why they're not calling. Again, it's like they might be at work, or they might be working out after, or so again, I think that's an opportunity to learn about that person and say, okay, like, you know, how was your day? What did you do this evening? When you do end up talking, you know, so that you're learning, okay, they enjoy going to the gym after work, or they enjoy going to play football after work. Yeah. So it's a moment to explore and learn about the person you're potentially going to be with. So I think instead of having an expectation of you should call me or you should be home. Rather say like, okay, what do they enjoy? Because essentially with a partner, what you're meant to complement each other. Where someone is, it's maybe your weakness in focusing or staying committed to a workout routine or something, they're very diligent with that, and therefore you rub off that energy and you become more diligent with your workout, you know? Not in a negative way of like, I'm working out more than you, but like, let's go together, you know? So I think it's important to learn and take those opportunities instead of questioning yourself on are they not calling me because I'm not good enough, or what are they doing that they're not calling me? Just learn and think about, okay, like they actually enjoy going to the studio and making music after dinner, you know? And so I know they're not going to be home until 12, you know, type of thing.
And you know, that's being very realistic, and that's allowing the person to show you who they are. It's not you expecting a certain person and then expecting them to fit that image. So it's just learning them, allowing them to show you who they are, and then you're deciding, do I want this person or is this person not for me? Now what happens when you've gotten into a relationship? And let me direct this to Ian first of all, because I know men are the ones who get a lot of the pressure of, you know, I want you to take me on vacation. I expected to be in Zanzibar right now, you know, because there are those dreams, and there's this thing people say, it's vacation. So they just think, you know, when we get into a relationship, it's supposed to be like sending roses every week. We're going on vacation. He's doing all these lovely things. And the reality is, most people are just ordinary, you know. It's you existing through life together and sharing your experiences. And, you know, you find time for moments like that. But how do you balance someone who expects you to provide the world, and the reality is where you're at, you're probably giving them something, but they can't see it. They just want more and more. Maybe you're going on road trips and they want a flight to South Africa. How do you manage those expectations in a relationship? Do you feel like once a woman is pushing that on you, it's not the woman for you? Or how do you communicate and tell her, this is what I'm able to do right now, and we'll get there eventually, but you have to be patient and we have to grow and get there? How do you express that when you feel like the expectations are placed on you?
Super excited for this one.
Basically, the part that actually has to, you know, stick is the honesty part. Like, before we're getting into a relationship, you should know what I can do and what I can't do. I should actually, as a dude, be able to tell you, you know, I can do this, this, and this. Not even me telling you, you can actually see it for yourself. There's a certain type of pressure I'll apply. We in the streets, we like calling it applying pressure. If I'm applying pressure and I'm taking you to restaurants, high-end restaurants, like something maybe like a 3-star restaurant, then you'll know through the consistency of me taking you to a 3-star restaurant, you'll definitely know I can't afford a 5-star restaurant. I'm actually giving you the best that I can for you to actually, you know, get into a relationship with me. If I'm giving you maybe a Rolex, a Rolex maybe, you know, a knockoff of a Rolex. Then definitely
the Kenyan version.
Yeah, the Kenyan version
of a Rolex.
You'll basically know that I can't afford the real deal. So basically, the methods I'll use to court you is what you actually gauge me with. You'll know, I can do this, you can't do this. If we buy you one rose, then definitely you know that you'll never expect a bouquet. Like, if I didn't do it when courting you, why will I do it now in a relationship with you? The same way other dudes won't give flowers. If I've never gifted you a flower when I'm courting you, why will you expect a bouquet of flowers from me during Valentine's? Like, it's not practical. So it's just honesty and actually reading the room. Yeah.
And I like that you said that, because I've just remembered today is Girlfriend's Day. You know? And I'm pretty sure there's so many guys who are in trouble because they didn't meet the expectations of whatever the lady was, you know, fantasizing about and romanticizing about.
A good thing, Sherry Lever, is to catch you off. Like, for today, it's Girlfriend's Day. If a dude has been buying you flowers consistently, that's what you're expecting. If a dude didn't put any effort to a point where we call it the bare minimum, then expect the bare minimum. things don't change overnight.
Yeah, but now I'm wondering, I have a question, because you know, us
Yeah,
ladies sometimes, we don't ask, you know, we'll be like, yeah, I want a bouquet of flowers, I want a teddy bear, I want to be taken out, but you've not communicated it. You just expect this dude to just know, this is what I want. So perhaps there's an aspect of learning each other, but Vanessa, how can we communicate better as ladies and you know, have the conversation with the guy even before it gets there? Because sometimes people wait for leo jioni ikifika midnight wako hapo and they're like, oh, he didn't do this, they're mad. And they won't tell you why they're mad, they just expect you to figure it out. But how can we be better communicators with even our expectations so that we have the conversation? We tell the guy, this is what I expect, and then the guy can tell us, this is what I can deliver. Or, you know, like somehow have that conversation so that usikwe disappointed. Because so many people, I feel like they get disappointed, but they don't even communicate what they expected to begin with. How can we be better at communicating our expectations and having that conversation?
I think the major thing, I think with men, it's very black and white, right? Like when now you're asking to read between the lines, I think your a general response is, I don't know what you're thinking, you know, like I can't read your mind, so why wouldn't you just tell me that you wanted this type of thing, right? Yeah. You guys really want like this way or this way. Yeah, you don't like the gray areas. So I think, you know, if it's your first like girlfriend's day, as a couple, I think, you know, before that you can, and you're expecting something or you would want something, you can mention that before and say, hey, like, you know, what are we in? August. You see how quickly the year is gone? The year is done. You know, I think it would be nice if we could do something. Yeah. You know, now that's ball in your court. Right? True. Like you've heard her and I'm not saying you specifically, you know, but ball is in the male's court now to say, okay, like I've heard that she wants to do something. Now it's up to me to either ask an additional question of what do you want to do? Where do you want to go? That type of thing. Or, you know what, like maybe a surprise would be cool. Yeah. Right? So I think initiate that conversation as women, I think is really important to say, yeah, this might be a good idea. Yeah. You know, how about we do this? Or I would like something. Or, you know, I really enjoy having flowers in the house. And so it's like, okay, there's 1 and 2 must equal something. Yeah. So if there's dead flowers in the house, maybe I'll think to buy some. And now that's on the male's part. You can, you know, you can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So you can't give everything and say, every Tuesday I want flowers. Otherwise, I think meaning is just like diminished from that, you know. True. The element of surprise, I think, is also important, but I think express yourself and don't assume that, you know, your partner knows what you're thinking or knows what you like or that you would appreciate something.
He's supposed to know me.
Yeah, and it's like 2 months in and you're like, he's not going to know you in 2 months.
And you know, sometimes even people who are married don't know each other that well.
That is very true.
So you have to communicate, and I think that's something us ladies need to listen and take and run with it, because sometimes we don't communicate. We get disappointed and then we wonder, why was I disappointed? And we are trying to find out, how do you manage your own expectations? How do you handle disappointments from your expectations not being met? Because you have expectations, you're trying to figure out how to maybe maneuver them, especially with everything that's going on. How do you handle those? So we will sample that as we progress. And now let me take it to the family. Because the same way that we expect sometimes people to just know us, sometimes our parents just expect us to, you know, you're supposed to know, get up, clean this entire compound on a Saturday when they start blasting Christian music. And sometimes we don't always deliver because, you know, we have our own personalities and then our parents have their own personalities. Our siblings also have their own personalities. How can we manage the expectations, especially coming from our parents? I know it's usually, I don't know if it's heavier on the men, because I know firstborn daughters have it hard. I don't know if you're a firstborn daughter, but you'll tell us about that experience. Because how do you manage, Ian, how do you manage expectations from your parents? They expect you to finish school, be this huge media personality who's bringing in money, you've bought them a shamba, a home, all that. How do you make it, how do how do you, I don't know, like merge the expectation with the reality of where you're at and what you can do in this moment in time?
I guess for me, it's basically not actually letting the expectations, cloud how I'm living right now, because there's a certain way I'll want to move and there's a certain way they'll want me to move.
Yeah.
Case in point, even if you're employed and they will want you to go to, you are offered a job at Media House X. And then your parents will like, no, you know what? We watch Media House Y, and we want you to go to Media House Y because that's where we like watching our content from. Basically, that's now them living your life for you. So basically, you shouldn't even let anyone's expectations just govern how you're living your life. You should have a clear pathway. Let something that you're doing or whatever you're doing, let it be genuine. Because if they're expecting you to buy them a shamba, then you'll feel obligated. You won't do it out of love, as it should be. But just try, pull up your socks, get them a shamba without even them asking for it, or without even them keeping telling you every now and then that, you know what, we want a shamba. So basically just make sure you live your life how you want it to be lived, how you want to live it. Don't let anyone's expectations weigh you down. Case in point, we talked about the relationship aspect of life. If a partner puts expectations on you, then they force you in one way or another to conform to what they believe in, to what they would like your life to look like. And now you start living yourself slowly and slowly. You're no longer now Cheryl.
Yeah.
You're someone else.
That's true. I love that you say that, because so many people take on what their parents want and they put themselves in the back burner, and it makes people resentful over time because they get mad, like, I was living for my dad all along and I never got to live for myself. How do we reconcile that? Because the way we was talking about firstborn daughters, I have a cousin who's a firstborn, and the pressure is on for her. Like, it's on. And sometimes you're just expected to be mature. You're expected to have it all figured out. People just look up to you and they're like, Vanessa has it all, and you're dealing with life because you're human. How do you manage that?
I think being a firstborn, so my mom actually told me this, and it's really interesting. She said, this is something that I noticed when, I have a younger sister, that when you guys were a lot older, it was always the oldest I was always asking, Vanessa, please go and grab this. Vanessa, can you grab that? So now when I saw my sister, my mom helping out my sister, I would already register certain things that, oh, mom is doing this, therefore she needs X, Y, Z. Right? So as the oldest, you learn things a lot faster, or learn to be a lot more proactive, that X plus, Y equals something, and you need to go and grab it. So I think managing the expectations, I think you're expected to sort of guide your sibling and like lead them to, success in a way. But I think what I always fall back on, especially with decision making and stuff like that, is that, I tell my parents, you've raised me, trust the way that you've raised me, that I'm making good decisions.
Yeah.
So have that faith in me that, in your parenting style, that you've done a good job.
Yeah.
And I think that's, where I sort of leave things, is like, just have faith in me.
Yeah.
Because you raised me, I'm a reflection of you, and I think you guys did an okay job, so trust the process. Like, it's coming, you know. But I think managing it as an older sibling, it's tough, because your siblings also tend to not want to listen. Sometimes I know a very good
boss.
Yes, I have a very good friend of mine. She is the younger sibling, and she is a lot like my sister, where she's very like, no, I'm not going to do it that way. Like, don't tell me what to do. And you say something, and they do the exact opposite. And she tells me all the time, she's like, yeah, good on your sister, And I'm like, actually, if you think about it, she's her own character. I think parents put that responsibility by default when the youngest is their own person and should be allowed to express themselves as is. So I think.
And do you think what people say about firstborns being like dictators, because you're the one who's put in charge most of the times when the parents are away? So
I can see my sister going, yes, Vanessa, dictator. I can see my parents going, yes, Vanessa, bossy. Yeah. So I think that, but I think it's because you're given so much responsibility at a young age. You know, you're watching your parents manage 2 kids, and so I think instinctively, like, where you can help, you do. So I think that's also just how it sort of is, generally.
And I like that, because it's always the order of birth matters, because the first one is given the pressure, the last one is like the baby of the family, and then the middle kids are usually mostly just left on their own, you know, living their life, vibing out. But then there's the toss side of the only kids, and I'm an only child. And I feel like the pressure is on, because my mom cannot let me breathe without knowing exactly where I'm breathing from and who you're breathing with. You know, and I find it hard sometimes, because I wish I had a sibling, then kungekuwa na balance and get her attention yote, alafu maybe aike last born or someone or the first born. But now there's that added pressure when it's just you. And I think that also it comes into play when you're an entrepreneur, when you're doing business. It's just you. Everyone is looking up to you. You're the CEO. So tell us, what's up? What are we going to do from here? How do you feel like you can manage that? Yeah, do you have any thoughts on that? How can you manage, especially in a situation where everyone is looking up to you? There's no one else. It's just you who has to deliver.
Then again, we go back to the point that just wing it. Just, live your life. Like, you don't, in as much as a lot of people will, expect, Cheryl should, rack up the cash right now. Cheryl should, take me to swimming right now. Cheryl is my big cousin. She actually has to send me a lot of pocket money, because at the end of the day, now you start living by other people's expectations of it. It's just like, now you lock yourself in a cage whereby you just have to conform, and you can't leave yourself out of it. You can't free yourself from that proverbial cage. So you just have to just do what is best for Cheryl. Don't do what is best for your cousin. Don't do what is best for your brother. Don't do what is best for your friends. Just do what is best for Cheryl, because at the end of the day, it is your life. Look out for Cheryl first.
I love that. Oh, I need to tell myself that every morning. I'm like, look out for Cheryl first. Now, let me get to, on that note, because we've just brought in the aspect of business. As an entrepreneur, you have expectations. You had plans for maybe your 2-year goal, your 5-year goal. Even this year, you had expectations, but then the reality, because of things that are happening around, may not always align with what you thought would happen. How do you manage that as an entrepreneur? How do you manage expectations and keep going from where you're at?
I think the most important thing is that I know every day I'm waking up and doing something I love. So when adversity comes into play, which it does on a daily basis, I think the driving force is that I'm waking up every day and getting to do something I enjoy. Like, not many people can say that, so I should be thankful for that, number one. And so when adversity comes, it's like, okay, I allow myself, I think I've brought it down. It used to be like 3 hours. I think I've brought it down to an hour. Be upset. Okay. Be upset, and then after that hour, you have to figure out what to do. There is a solution. It's not like everything is crumbled. There's a solution to what's going on. You need to pivot. And so I give myself that hour, and that's like a form of procrastination, in a way, a positive procrastination, and something I talk about a lot. So you go, you do what you need to do, avoid that whole topic. After that hour, come back. Now,
you lock in.
Game plan. What are we going to do about X, Y, Z? This has happened. Whether it's travel plans or financial stuff, or you're losing your consultant for something, or a client's not doing well, whatever it may be. There's always a solution. You just have to be innovative. And you got yourself to where you are, or I am where I am today because of hard work and because of certain people that have supported me. So reach out to those channels too. You did work very hard to get there. So it's not a coincidence. Yes,
Yeah.
there's some luck, right room, right time, right conversation, but essentially it took hard work. So don't discredit that. Look back on where you started to where you are, and I can guarantee you you're better off where you are now than 2 weeks ago. So take
Yeah.
that in mind and give yourself that time to be upset. You should be allowing yourself to be upset. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't be upset.
Yeah.
Be upset, but then address the problem.
And I
'cause
think
there's
that's a very
solution.
practical way of approaching it, because the reality
Easier said
is,
than done. Everything I'm saying, a lot easier said than done.
Like, I think most
said, it
things in
takes
life,
work.
you just say it and you're like, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
And then you get to the ground and you're like, wow.
No, literally
This
set a
takes work.
timer. Like I literally, in the beginning, because I had no concept of that time, I'm like, I'm just going to be upset. Set a timer on your phone.
Yeah.
You have an hour.
And something you said, it's so funny that you said 3 hours to be upset.
Yeah.
You're like,
No, too long.
let me just go. And then you realize, no, I need to bring it down. And it's also gauging with the experience. The more experience you
Yeah.
have, the better you know how to handle it.
Of
But
course.
it's giving yourself the grace to know that these things happen, I'm human, and reaching out to the channels around you.
Yeah.
That's important, because so many people want to do things by themselves. And let me bring it to the media aspect, because I'm in media, and for so many people who are within the media space, traditional media is dying. And it's hard for you to come to terms with that, especially if that's all you know, and that's all you know, your plans are like, I want to be in this media house, I want to do this, and be on TV and all that. And then you realize we have social media now, and personalities are taking over. Ian, how do you manage expectations when you want a certain thing, but the reality or things are shifting faster than you thought, and you want to fit in that, you need to fit in that rather? How do you manage expectations and align them to fit with the reality of what's happening on the ground?
You first of all, more so in the media profession, expectations should not be rigid, because in the media profession we have to adapt. Now, maybe in the early 2000s, TV was all we knew, all we could do, all we could listen to. That was the information channels that we were using, as well as radio. But now we are in the early, would I say early or mid 2020s? Now, social media is a buzz. We have X, we have Facebook, we even have Instagram, whereby we know it's a platform whereby we flex, we show the good times we've been having. Yeah, but then we also get information from there. So basically, you just have to adapt. Let your expectations adapt with the changing times. More so in the media profession. If you grew up watching TV and want to see yourself on TV every day, every night, you just want, yani watu wa kijiji yenyu wakuone. In that aspect, you should just shift. Maybe I can start an X space whereby I'll be the host, whereby it will still create a buzz. People will know you nonetheless, because at the end of the day, you got into media because to TV particularly because you wanted to have that fame, have that clout. Have you achieved what you wanted? Yes, people do know you. People recognize you for the work you've been doing. Did your expectations shift? No, you just adapted with the situation. Yeah.
I love that. And as we're coming to an end, this has been a lovely conversation. So maybe I can wrap it up by, we have expectations from society, family, friends, relatives. Everyone just expects you're an adult. At this point, you should have everything figured out. And I think we were talking about that before. There's an age you get to 25, and people are like, yeah, now you're grown. You're grown, you have to figure it out. You get to 30, you get to a milestone, and you just expect a life to be a certain way, or people expect you to have certain things figured out. In the past, it used to be pressure to get married and have kids. They're like, wow, your time is flying. Do you not realize that? Especially for ladies.
Yeah.
But now how do we reconcile that and say, you have your own expectations, but these are my expectations? How do you stay authentic to your own goals and your own ideas and dreams and what you want, as opposed to conforming to what society expects of you?
I think the most important thing is, like we've discussed, is to know yourself. And when you do that deep work, I think it's a lot easier to express yourself. a lot easier. You're able to tell your friends, your family, like, this is something important to me, or these are my values, or these are my the ways I live my life. This is why X or Y is important to me. And I think that's super important. So, you know, obviously I'm a little bit biased because I'm a psychologist, I'm mental health, so this is what I, you know, go through with a lot of my clients. But it's really important to know yourself, and I think that's the foundation of everything. Because then when you do start X, you know, your own X channel, or, you know, you're doing your social media lives and things like that, you know the intention behind it, you know the root of it, so you're never going to not be confident. And I think that's something that we lack when it comes to those decisions, is that I'm not confident in my decision to not have a child right now, or to not be in a relationship. And people say, why? You know, you need to be, like, clock is ticking, this, that, and the other. And it's like, no, because I need to do X, Y, and Z beforehand, or like right now in my life, I don't feel like I'm emotionally mature to have it. But you're aware enough to admit that. You see, so I think understanding yourself, and you'll never know yourself fully. I think growth should be on a daily basis, but that growth is mindful growth. It's intentional growth, where you say, okay, yeah, this yoga practice or this type of meditation is now important to me. I can't not meditate, whether it's in the shower or however it is. You learn more about yourself, and I think that is the foundation of expressing yourself and living with intention, and being able to show the closest people, you know, around you, who you truly are. And when they see that, and when you're living your true self, like you've been talking about, people are like, wow, you know, like, that's amazing for you. You know, there's a different level of belief. And I think that's where it all starts. So it always starts with you. Everything. Going to the gym,
having faith
everything.
in yourself, and knowing exactly what you want, and trusting your timeline. It's not about everyone else's timeline. And for the men, it's worse, because, you know, men have pressure from everyone. It's like, why are you not driving right now? You know, things like that. They expect men, we expect men, society expects men to have things figured out without knowing how they have it figured out. We don't ask, how are you getting here? We just expect, get here, deliver, do this, be a rock, be this and that. How do you manage that? How do you take it day by day?
It's just using, personally for me, it's a mantra that I use a day at a time, because at the end of the day, it's a day at a time, because, and also being realistic. I can't be unemployed and expect to be driving by next year. Right now I'm unemployed and I expect to be driving by next year. That's just not practical. And again, I'm looking at the practicality of my situation, because at the end of the day, society dictates that for a dude, success is compulsory. Come rain, come sunshine, success is compulsory. So don't actually be encroached in that idea that much. Don't actually let it get to your head, because now that's where you really start feeling the pressure. From when you feel the pressure, now it starts taking a toll on your psyche. Now when it does that, now you, instead of becoming a better version of yourself, you're continuing to degrade. Your personality degrades, because now you'll be like, my peers are driving, why am I not driving? Because everyone has their own timeline and everyone has their own calendar in life. We just actually have to wait for your time, because at the end of the day, it's clap for others until it's your turn to be clapped for.
Yeah, I love that. It's just basically being honest with yourself and being realistic. So let me sample some of the comments you've shared with us. We were asking, how do you handle expectations? Alan Kihu has said, persistence, patience, prayers, and surrounding yourself with positive-minded friends. I love that. Thank you. Hassan Harid, Namutitu Toka Mbea from TZ. Thank you so much for watching us. Lameko Marimba kutoka Kisii Marani watching. Thank you. Mtoto wa Kenyatta, God first. Ikishindikana, imeshindikana. Aki Naivasha tuko life. Thank you for that. Simon Kinyanjui is by revisiting the expectations, which is good. That's what we've been saying. Ras Bashir Wero Abusia is watching us this evening. Thank you. Nafi Mzazi is also tuned in, as well as Ian Dantes. Thank you so much for watching us. And I think we have a few other people who are watching us. Let me just mention David, Charles, Vincent, Julius. We no longer set expectations. Life is just what it is. And let me get some, like, your parting shot in under 30 seconds, if you don't mind. Vanessa, let's start with you. Give us your parting shot and where we can find you on your socials.
So you can find me on Life Coaching KE on all of my social medias, my Instagram and Facebook. It's life.coaching.ke actually. And yeah, I think the most important thing that I want you guys to take away is, you know, when you see somebody in need of help or something like that, just offer your help. And I think that can also help people manage their expectations, you know, and manage their, you know, journey on finding out what is important to them and who they are.
Thank you. That's well said. Ian, what about you? Where can we find you and what's your parting shot for us this day?
Basically, my parting shot is, you know, make sure you set realistic expectations, because at the end of the day, if expectations are just simple expectations, they'll continue to be expectations because you'll never attain them. It will always take a toll on you when you don't attain them, and it actually downgrade your psyche in terms of if you feel you can actually attain certain goals that you set for yourself. So actually, let's be advocate for us to be more realists rather than optimists, because at the end of the day, it is life. We can be optimistic in some aspects of life, but still let's maintain that sort of realism in life. On Instagram, you can find me at Ian_Scott. Also on LinkedIn, you can now find me at Ian Zive. And yeah, basically that's it.
I like that. Because I think there's one thing we can agree. Know thyself, be realistic, and factor in the variables. Life is not linear. Life is a roller coaster. The way we've been saying, we've been echoing that. So take stock right now where you're at, where you want to be, and plan from here, not from 5 months ago, not from January, from whenever. Plan from today. Figure out where you want to be and set realistic goals. That's it from us today. We have WRC that's airing after this, and I'd like to thank the entire team. We have an amazing team of people, from the technicians, the camera operators here in studio with us, the sound operators, from our station controller to our amazing producer director. Thanks to all of you. I know wanatukani waseme majina, but wanilipe. So rally is coming up. WRC, stay tuned to Y254 for that. We have more amazing content coming your way. A repeat of this will air tomorrow between 1 and 2 p.m. and we'll have it on social media. So come back next week for another amazing conversation. Have a good evening, guys.